Well, we got a couple different things going on here. I'll flip around. You can kind of see there's a couple different things around me, but here we are. We're here for a look at the Screen Actor Guild Awards final predictions. First time I'm trying that out in this room here, so I'm hoping the mic doesn't, because right now it sounds extremely echoey in here, so I'm not used to that. Floor is carpeted, so it's supposed to do that, but I think just the walls themselves are a little echoey. So, that being said, let's go ahead and get started here, because really with SAG, we've got 6 categories to talk about as far as final predictions. Outside of that, I really don't have much to go over today. I mean, we just had, why I kind of wanted to wait here was we were also doing the Spirit Awards, Indie Spirit Awards were also tonight. And kind of as expected, and we didn't really, we didn't do official predictions or anything, but Anora pretty much cleaned up a bunch of the awards. They won Best Lead Performance, Best Picture, Best Director. Let's see, anything else? I think that's it. Yeah, just those 3 awards. Yeah. So it was a film that we knew Indie Spirits were probably going to enjoy. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get started though with the Screen Actors Guild winner predictions. And again, only 6 categories here. So some of these are going to be easier than others. Some of them are going to be quick. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Starting with the Film Stunt Ensemble Prize. This is always a fun one. This one, I think it's a little more open because a lot of people have just said, oh, it's probably The Fall Guy, and they just kind of say, okay, that's it. Now, I agree The Fall Guy is probably the one that will win because it's a movie, it's about stunts, and it's kind of funny because I remember back at the Oscars last year, there was a kind of tribute to stunt work, and it was, the introduction was by the 2 stars of the film, Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling. And just the way it was timed and the way it was presented and stuff, I almost felt like they were going to just announce, because they had announced not way too long before that, obviously not on the show, but at least a few months prior, I think they had announced the Oscars that, we're going to also introduce a new category, and it's coming into play next year, and that's the Best Casting Award. With this, it was like the way they were setting up, I'm like, are they going to introduce, like they're actually going to say, oh, by the way, in a year or two's time, we're going to finally introduce a stunt category at the Oscars? I for half a second, I kind of felt like we were heading that way, but obviously that did not happen. And I do think, yes, The Fall Guy is in pole position. I think it probably is your more likely pick. That being said, we do have Dune Part 2, which I think is in contention, and Deadpool and Wolverine I think is very much in contention. Both those movies were big moneymakers when compared to something like The Fall Guy, which was a more moderate hit. Wasn't exactly, a gangbusters, blockbuster type of box office performance. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we do see Deadpool or even Dune pull off a upset win in the category here. But I have to agree though, and I have to say that The Fall Guy will be my pick here to win. For supporting actress, Zoe Saldana is my pick. I think she's going to win. I've been talking about it on and off for the last few weeks here, even with a lot of the Emilia Perez controversies and just negative feelings toward the film. Zoe has continued to win at the various award shows. Her speeches have been classy. Nobody's really, balked at them and said, how dare she win? She hasn't really been the target of anybody just yet. And a lot of people, interesting enough, I was kind of, at one point, kind of leaning that way too, with Wicked overperforming here at SAG, though, getting 5 nominations, just a real love for the movie. I was kind of thinking, okay, Ariana Grande, this could be just a quick little upset moment here where she could maybe get some steam and maybe also win at the Oscars. But at the moment, though, even with Ariana, even with her film doing extremely well here, and Emilia Perez, getting 3 nominations, which is still a pretty good haul, but like even in this category, we didn't see Selena Gomez nominated. It didn't get into one of the stunt categories, even though Wicked did, and even though that one, I don't really think there's a bunch of stunts in Wicked. It's more, as we kind of talked about at the time of the nominations, like more of a choreography thing, and that's not always compatible with stunts and all that. But anyways, that being neither here nor there. I still think, though, even though, yes, Ariana Grande is popular in the movie and she's one of the, biggest attractions of the movie and everything, I would still say Zoe, though, because of her extensive work in the past. She's done television, which there's a lot of TV voters that are here at SAG, especially, we sometimes forget that with the SAG-AFTRA blending or merger. I couldn't think of the word for a second there, merger. That has introduced way more voters, both for winners and nominations here at SAG. So, yeah, I still say Zoe is going to win this. Supporting actor, Kieran Culkin. Done. Really no crosstalk here. He's kind of sealed this category up, especially with a BAFTA win and everything. Yeah, I really don't see him falling short here. For Best Actress, this, I think, again, this is going to be the determiner for where I go for Best Actress at the Oscars. At the moment, I have both lined up to go to Demi Moore. Now, even though, yes, tonight Mikey Madison did win over Demi Moore at the Indie Spirit Awards, again, I think that's a thing of them liking that movie more. They liked Anora more. And at BAFTA, you could argue as well, because the substance, really, its only win was in makeup, and outside of that, it wasn't really, it didn't upset for screenplay, and they didn't give it to Anora either, so they really liked A Real Pain in that category. And all that. But with this, Demi is playing an actress. She's an actress that has been around for a long time and everything. I just think all the signs are still pointing toward Demi here. Now, that being said, if Mikey does pull off the win here, it's going to be hard to argue, because at that point, okay, you've got BAFTA, you've got SAG, Indie Spirits is worth a little something, that's true, but last I checked, I don't think there's a bunch of voter crossover between Indie Spirits and the Oscars. There might be, again, maybe a very small handful, but I really don't think there's any significant overlap. There is significant overlap, though, between SAG and BAFTA. Those are both big industry titans when it comes to this predictive stuff. So, that's when I'm like, okay, then I have to kind of relent. Not that I'm, against Mikey winning or anything, obviously, but at that point, I have to concede that, yes, she probably has the win. There has been some talk, though, again, with Wicked being popular here. What if Cynthia Erivo kind of pulls a weird, win where she's able to split enough votes between Demi and Mikey? And that's a good question. If she does, then I don't know. I don't think that's enough for her to keep going and then win at the Oscars, to only have SAG behind her. I just don't quite think that's going to happen. Boy, that would put us in a quandary. That would sure put us in a quandary when we get to the Oscars. Then it's like, okay, Mikey has a little bit more momentum with more recent wins. Demi, though, and her movie, again, is up for Best Picture. It's up for Best Director. It's up for Screenplay and everything, on top of the makeup and the lead actress nominations and stuff. And yes, Anora does, at the moment, still seem to be our Best Picture front runner as well. Boy, that's still going to be a really tight determiner there. And I don't know. Then it's kind of a tough, then it's kind of more of a coin flip thing. But if Demi does come back and win here tomorrow night, again, at that point, Mikey will have only had BAFTA, which, again, you could argue maybe the BAFTA voters just weren't into that movie. But since then, you'll have the Globe, you'll have Critics' Choice, you'll have SAG, all going to Demi. And really, I'm trying to think, the last time I think we saw that, I think that exact line, it was a tie. I was going to say, I was thinking Glenn Close, a little bit of Glenn Close for The Wife, versus Olivia Colman for The Favorite, because at that point, Olivia, her only win was BAFTA, where she was more or less the front runner to win, and she only had BAFTA behind her, and then she won at the Oscars over Glenn Close. Even though, yes, there is a little asterisk there that Glenn Close and Lady Gaga tied at Critics' Choice for what that is worth, but. There's a few key differences, though, in that scenario that would lead me to say probably is not going to be Demi Moore in that race. It's probably not going to be Mikey Madison if it's exactly that scenario, because there's a big difference between Anora, which is a Best Picture frontrunner, she's the star of the movie and everything, and Glenn Close in The Wife, for an example, because. Again, we mentioned it, Demi Moore and her movie The Substance, it's up for picture, it's up for director, it's up for significant Oscars. With Glenn Close, her only thing that she was nominated and the film was nominated for was Best Actress. It couldn't play for screenplay. It couldn't play for Jonathan Pryce in either lead or supporting actor, whichever you felt was more appropriate for his performance. It couldn't play for Best Picture. It couldn't play for any below-the-line nominations or anything. So there's a big difference between that and The Favorite, which was one of the more nominated films in 2018. So, yeah. So I think in this case, again, I'm going to really lean my Oscar prediction on what happens here tomorrow night. But I will say for the record, yes, I do think Demi Moore will win. But again, if it's Mikey, then I think the ship will have sailed, and I think they'll give it to her. And again, it's tough. You can see both angles, though. You've got somebody who's kind of a Hollywood icon, been around for a long time, had some massive hits back in the day, and now she's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence. And again, it's a movie about acting, and it's a movie about aging a little bit and about not being as recognized as you were before. And it's a lot of elements that I think do lean toward a SAG win. And I do recognize, yes, as some people have also pointed out, 2014, because that was also kind of up in the air year for like Best Picture and stuff up to a certain point. We did have that almost same scenario play out for Michael Keaton versus Eddie Redmayne. Eddie Redmayne, who is not playing not playing an actor, not playing a struggling actor, not playing someone who's arguably past their prime a little bit and trying to make a comeback, as is kind of the case with The Substance as well when you get into the storyline of that movie. Then we did see that in that case it win, but I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if history repeats itself, or if we do see the more actor-friendly role come through and win. For Best Actor, even though I'm still on board for Adrien Brody winning at the Oscars, I think Timothée Chalamet still can win tomorrow at SAG, so I do have him ahead to win as well. Again, the big thing for me is The Brutalist. Yes, it's a movie that scored a lot of Oscar nominations, scored a good number of BAFTA nominations, did well at Critics' Choice as far as nominations, got some wins early. Since then, it has really struggled. It won, a few things at BAFTA, including Best Director, which was a win that film kind of felt like it needed to kind of stay in the hunt for that race, and then also, was just good recognition for the film, and then it did okay in a couple of those below the line tech categories. And Adrien Brody also won as well. But those were the four wins it had at BAFTA. But it couldn't win Best Film. And it couldn't win DGA. And PGA, which I thought was in play but a little more up in the air, it couldn't win that either. And then at Critics' Choice, even though, again, there's not any overlap with Oscar voters, it couldn't even win. It couldn't even beat out John M. Chu, who's not nominated anywhere else this year at major televised awards for Best Director. It couldn't even win that category for its directing job. So something is, even though, yes, I will think The Brutalist at the Oscars, I think it's got three categories that I'm going to predict it in, which is Best Actor, Best Cinematography, and Best Original Score. I think those three are the races it's arguably in the lead for. Not guaranteed to win, but I think those three are the ones I would pick it for. Anything else I think is going to be a little bit of a stretch. Like Director at this point, I still feel like the wins are still favoring Sean Baker. I would say one that it could arguably be up for is Film Editing. That could either go to Anora or Conclave. Conclave has the BAFTA win behind it. Anora feels like our Best Picture winner, so Editing sometimes can go with your Best Picture winner, so I wouldn't be shocked to see that one win. I'm trying to think what else. Production Design, I feel like Wicked has jumped it in that race for sure. It also, that's another thing too for The Brutalist, it couldn't even win at that guild for period production design. It got beat out by Nosferatu. It's like, okay, yeah, something is amiss here. This is just not a movie that is universally beloved by all the voting bodies and stuff. So I would not be shocked, even though, yes, Adrien Brody is our front runner for Best Actor and everything, I would not be shocked on a bigger scale, this is one of the bigger voting blocks of any of these major televised awards, SAG-AFTRA. I would not be shocked if the more popular movie, A Complete Unknown, which has 4 nominations, including Ensemble, I wouldn't be shocked to see the lead actor in it win. It's also a popular actor. He's a younger actor. SAG when you look at a few of these things, sometimes they will go younger, and it's obviously, again, not the exact same circumstance, but I can remember Anthony Hopkins losing here to Chadwick Boseman. And obviously, again, there's some different circumstances that were happening there because of Chadwick's passing and everything. But yeah, it used to be, yes, back in the old days of SAG, it's like when, in the earlier years, they would go with the veterans because it's like, before, like, I can remember, like, Christopher Walken winning for Catch Me If You Can, who arguably was really, even though he was nominated at the Oscars and stuff, I don't think he was really in play to win his second Oscar that night. I mean, he was glad to be nominated, I'm sure, but it's like, we kind of knew that was not going to go to him. We knew Chris Cooper was probably going to win that category that year, for example. So yes, in the olden days of SAG, the first few ceremonies, yeah, they wanted to get some of those veterans some wins, so they could say, oh yeah, we've given an award to this actor before they retire or before they work a little less prolifically. And in this case, The Brutalist has no other support here at SAG. Its only nomination is Adrien Brody. I just think there's too much here for me to say Timothée does not have a really great shot here. So I think Timothée will win. Now, again, the important thing, too, we have to remember for those of you who are rooting for him at the Oscars or that like the movie or, maybe don't like The Brutalist or whatever, all this is happening and these winners are decided. This is after Oscar voting has closed. It closed a few days ago on Tuesday this previous week here. So it was, basically 2 days after the BAFTA winners were announced. So, yeah, I don't really think that this is a case where Timothée, if he does happen to win tomorrow night, I don't think he's going to ride that momentum to a win at the Oscars or anything. And, of course, the other thing, too, is Adrien Brody. If Adrien Brody wins this tomorrow night, he's like a lock for Best Actor. And I think he's already got it. I think he's already going to get the win anyways. But then we know it's like a no-brainer. It's like him... at that point, I would say Zoe Saldana in Supporting Actress is a no-brainer, and I would say Kieran Culkin in Supporting Actor is a no-brainer. It would only really be Best Actress that'll give us a little bit of heartburn between the four acting races on Oscar night. And, of course, for Best Ensemble, here I'm going to stick with Wicked. I thought about it a little bit, like switching, like, okay, could we see Conclave win here? Could we see Anora win this one, get the Triple Crown, and be, almost I won't say an inevitable winner, but certainly have another bullet in its chamber to say, we've got the Best Picture win. So making those cases really quick, with Conclave, yes, it does have the BAFTA win and stuff. It did win for its acting ensemble at Critics' Choice, which is true. But... I would say, again, the big thing with that is, number one, the BAFTA love for Conclave, winning Best British Film and Best Film overall. That's... I just have to say, I'm still not convinced that that's a sign that the movie is way, way, way ahead in Best Picture. I don't think so. It's hard to not still say that this is a little bit of a, the British really loved the movie. In the same way the British, they really liked All Quiet on the Western Front. And that got a bunch of wins that year. Another Edward Berger film. Nope, it didn't. It got a bunch of below-the-line wins. It got, cinematography and original score and categories like that at the Oscars. But it couldn't, it wasn't in play for Best Picture, really. Best Picture was kind of already preordained at that point to go to Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And with this, I just, even with the BAFTA love, this is not enough for me to say Conclave wins. Now, if Conclave does win tomorrow night over all these films, and by the way, I think really with Best Actor, that's the only other shot this movie has to win because Isabella Rossellini is not nominated in Supporting Actress here at SAG. And Ralph Fiennes, I think his only shot really to win at the Oscars and to kind of start getting momentum was if he would have won at BAFTA, which he did not. So, he's kind of playing for third place, if you will. So I don't think he's going to win this. So if Conclave walks away with only ensemble, which is kind of weird because when we look at it, it's like, okay, the other two nominees are Emilia Perez, which we think has supporting actress, but with all the stuff going on with the movie, around the scenes and everything, and after a lot of these nominations have come out, I don't think enough voters, even if they're passionate about it, it doesn't have enough passion, I don't think, to win. Now, sure, a complete unknown is the other one. And sure, that one does have a lot of nominations. It's the second most nominated film at SAG this year. Kind of got both the supporting categories and lead actor on top of its ensemble nomination to get to the fore. Again, it's really been struggling at a lot of the televised awards. It didn't win anything at, I have to remind myself here, I don't think, it didn't get anything at Golden Globes, won nothing at Critics' Choice, got shut out at BAFTA as well. It's just, it's kind of like, as some have compared it to, it's kind of like The Irishman or The Fabelmans at some of these award shows. Not all, but some of these award shows. It's like, yep, it gets nominated a few places. There's just no obvious place to award it. And with this, yeah, it's going to be strange because those are two films that right now, with my other predictions, I have getting wins. But Conclave, it ain't winning for Best Actor. Anora, if it doesn't win for Best Actress, this will be its only win. And Wicked, unless it, again, really surprises us somewhere, it's, because I don't think the stunts are in play, that's going to be its only win. So the only way that one of these three wins multiple prizes is if it's a really big surprise with Amelia Perez or Complete Unknown, or if Anora also takes Best Actress. That's the only way we're going to see our ensemble winner get more than one win. So, with Anora too, I think in this case, Anora is a movie they like here. It's still got Yura Borisov in and everything, but even though, yes, the Producers Guild and the Directors Guild really liked the movie, Indie Spirits gave it a good number of prizes here tonight, and BAFTA still gave it a couple prizes, including Mikey Madison for Best Actress. I don't think this is a preordained Best Picture winner. It doesn't feel like Oppenheimer last year, which was kind of in sweep mode at that point. I have to remind myself, who were the other nominees at SAG last year? Who was it up against? This was last year's. Like, I'm trying to think, who else could have beat out Oppenheimer last year? Like, was there a kind of a far cry, like, ooh, what about this film? I would say, I don't know. Maybe Barbie was in second place last year. Possibly American Fiction or Killers of the Flower Moon, maybe, but with Oppenheimer, again, it was really in sweep mode at this point last year, so it just kind of took SAG Ensemble as well. But American Fiction and Barbie, it's like, they didn't... there was popularity, I think, enough with those movies that it probably still got a good number of votes for their ensembles, but it was kind of a preordained thing. With Anora, not only was it's not really preordained because, number one, it didn't have, like Oppenheimer did last year, a series of wins leading up to this point, because at this point, yes, Anora has gotten some wins in the last few weeks with PGA, DGA, and, even though, there's not a lot of great overlap here with Indie Spirits. But before that, there was kind of a question of who's going to win Best Picture. The Brutalist kind of felt like maybe one of those movies that, with its grand epic scale and stuff, could win both director, picture, actor, or maybe a few other ones along the way. You had some people that still were thinking Conclave was really in play. Some people thought Wicked was really in play. And Anora was still hanging out. Yep, it was amongst the party. It was in there. It was like, yep, we think it can win. And some even at one point thought maybe A Complete Unknown, especially after it got like the director nomination on the morning of the Oscars. It's like, ooh, what if that one starts making a turn? Like, what if it wins PGA? It can kind of start getting a lot of momentum there. It was really up for debate. There was, legit at that point, there were people claiming 6 films were in play for Best Picture. So you can't really, again, Anora is not in that preordained spot. It's not one of those that's been through the awards season like always number one, no question about it. No. It's not, it's not like Oppenheimer. It's not like arguably Everything Everywhere All at Once, even though with that one, the Globes, it was kind of a shaky start, and yes, BAFTA later on did not really love the movie. But everywhere else, pun intended, yes, it was steamrolling. It was really, won really big at Critics' Choice, won a bunch of prizes, throughout the rest of the thing, including DGA, including PGA, and so on and so forth. So, so this is, it's a case where it's like, okay, I can kind of see it coming back to win SAG Ensemble, and it could do it. It's a great ensemble piece. The actors work really well together and everything. But again, when I look at this, kind of the part of this same argument I'm going to say, with the Best Actor pick for Timothée Chalamet, I still got to say, with all the number of voters in SAG, and that not all these people are chummy in Hollywood, some of them are spread throughout the U.S. or around the world, Wicked has, I think it's got the popularity boost on everything else compared to this category. Probably the second one probably being complete unknown as far as like which films are like, obviously, and we're not just talking box office, but just word of mouth, things that people are talking about, outside of Oscar circles, obviously, but yeah. So yeah, I still think Wicked, with the big number of nominations it pulled, because if it doesn't win here for Ensemble, what else can it win? And again, as we've seen this year, outside of maybe the Globes, where it's like, okay, the one spot where I think a lot of us had picked it to win, which was the box office achievement category, they had some outliers that thought maybe it could win for one of the two actresses, maybe it would win for Best Comedy Musical Film. It didn't, we thought, okay, where's the obvious spot they're going to award it? And if it wasn't those, it was going to be box office achievements. Then we got to something like Critics' Choice. It's like, ooh, where's the obvious a couple obvious picks that could go with it? Maybe the acting ensemble prize. Nope, it didn't win that. And even though, yes, it did have a couple wins below the line in the design categories, boom, here it came for Best Director for John M. Chu. It was like a big, again, genuine surprise that night. And at BAFTA, it didn't have, obviously, that exact same thing, because it did, again, only win the two design categories. But, yeah, I think, again, in this case, across the board, as we've seen here, outside of, obviously, PGA, DGA, where it's like, okay, you got one winner, at the multiple award shows, where, again, shows where you're handing out multiple awards, in other words, we've seen Wicked get represented somewhere. It's never, it has yet to this point been... it has not been shut out yet at any of these shows. And it would be really weird to see a Nora win, okay, Best Actress and Ensemble, and Wicked go home with nothing, with 5 nominations to a Nora's 3. It something just strikes me as a little off. Then again, something about this whole season has seemingly been off, because it's like, we don't really have a solid front runner. We don't really have, even with the Nora's PGA, DGA wins, it's like, okay, we've seen that happen a couple times here in the last 25 years. And, you can go back to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That won both DGA and PGA and lost for both director and picture at the Oscars. And we saw 1917 get beat out by Parasite in 2019. Again, 1917, another film that had the PGA and DGA wins, and that one even had a BAFTA win as well for Best Film. Couldn't win for Best Picture. So... I don't know. I mean, we've seen since then, we've seen Everything Everywhere All at Once get both PGA and DGA, and that won for both those respective categories at the Oscars. Oppenheimer did it last year. Nomadland, as I recall, did it in 2020. We can go back here. Let's see, not Roma. Well, technically, if you want to count, well, we're talking about ones that did win both categories. Yes. Let's think here. Remind me, did Shape of Water win in 2017, or was that something else? Because it wasn't. I don't think Three Billboards won for PGA. Did it? Okay, now I'm doubting myself here. Did it actually win for PGA? I can't remember. It did, yeah. It won for PGA, and it had DGA too, yeah. Okay, so that's another one that counts. Then you got Birdman. Technically... no, you can't count Argo. I was going to say Argo, but no. The Artist, as I recall, that won for both PGA, DGA, and then got the same awards at the Oscars there, I believe. So, yep. So, yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of examples of, yes, where you do win those two prizes, you'll win both Best Director and Best Picture at the Oscars. So, there's a lot of examples of it, but, it's fair to name, a couple times that it hasn't happened and everything. So, anyways. I think that's all I got for now. So, yeah, we'll be waiting here to see what happens in the next roughly 24 hours-ish. And see if there's any last-minute clues that SAG can give us. Now, again, there's going to be possibly some upset wins that happen here at SAG where it's like, okay, are we going to be tempted to pick them going forward and say, ooh, that's something that we need to take with us, as a takeaway, and it's like, ooh, we need to start picking this for this certain category. We will see. We will see. But I don't know. Again, with a lot of these wins, though, or with this year, with the Oscar voting already done, the winner is not always going to absolutely 100% reflect how the Oscar voters felt as well. So just my fair warning on that. So, yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll talk about the winners. We'll probably do a video, probably just one other video next week before, obviously before the Oscars are handed out, and we'll give our final winner predictions. But I don't think I'll need to go into another video where we talk about, ooh, what about this, what about that, and so on and so forth. I don't think so, but who knows? It's been a crazy as shit season, so who knows?